Project Phantom Dawn. Dr. Sarah Chen stared through the reinforced observation window, her breath catching as the test subject slowly faded from view. Not invisibility, something far more profound. The soldier's form shifted like heat waves rising from hot pavement, his outline becoming translucent before settling into a state that defied description. Present yet absent, solid yet incorporeal. Phase shift stable at 97%, announced Dr. Rodriguez from his monitoring station. Quantum coherence holding steady. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. After 15 years of research, countless failed attempts, and 3 catastrophic lab accidents, they'd finally done it. They'd created the first human capable of existing partially outside normal spacetime. Vital signs, she asked, maintaining her professional composure despite the historic moment unfolding before her. All green. Blood pressure, heart rate, brain activity, all within expected parameters. The soldier, Captain James Morrison, raised his hand and watched as it passed effortlessly through the solid steel barrier in front of him. The sight still sent chills down Sarah's spine, even after all their previous tests with inanimate objects and small animals. "How do you feel, Captain?" Sarah spoke into the microphone. Morrison's voice came through with an odd ethereal quality, like someone speaking through water. "Strange, ma'am, but not uncomfortable. It's hard to describe, like being everywhere and nowhere at once." The observation room door burst open, startling everyone except Morrison, who couldn't hear anything from his sealed testing chamber. General Harrison strode in, his face grave despite the breakthrough happening before him. "Dr. Chen, we need to talk. Now." Sarah glanced at Rodriguez, who nodded that he could monitor the rest of the test. She followed the general into the hallway, noting the beads of sweat on his forehead, despite the facility's careful climate control. "What's wrong, General? The test is exceeding all expectations." "This isn't about the test." He handed her a tablet displaying what looked like astronomical data. "This is from the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Hawaii, confirmed by 3 other locations." Sarah's eyes widened as she processed the information. "These energy signatures, they're artificial, and approaching from multiple vectors. We've detected at least 7 distinct groups of objects decelerating as they approach the solar system. Their energy outputs match nothing in our database." "First contact." Sarah whispered the words, her mind racing with implications. "That's the optimistic interpretation." Harrison's jaw clenched. "The pessimistic one is that we're about to be invaded by multiple alien species who've managed to coordinate their arrival times." Sarah looked back through the observation window at Morrison, still in his phase-shifted state, practicing moving through various obstacles. "How long?" "Best estimate, 6 months before they reach Earth orbit. Maybe less if they can accelerate beyond what we're detecting." Project Phantom was supposed to be a breakthrough in physics, a way to revolutionize transportation, medicine, energy production. Sarah shook her head. "We weren't trying to create weapons. But you did." Harrison's voice softened slightly. "Maybe the most important weapon in human history, if our fears prove correct. The ability to phase troops through any defense, to strike anywhere without warning." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Dr. Chen, I need you to shift this project into full military applications. Immediately." Sarah watched Morrison phase back to normal spacetime, his form solidifying as the quantum field collapsed. He showed no signs of distress, no indication that his brief journey into another state of existence had affected him. The technology worked. It was safe. And now it might be all that stood between humanity and extinction. "How many soldiers can we process in 6 months?" Harrison asked. Sarah did quick mental calculations, factoring in their current resources and what they could requisition under emergency protocols. "Maybe 500 with our current understanding of the process. 1,000 if we can streamline it and run the program 24/7. Make it happen. I'll have every qualified scientist and engineer with high enough clearance transferred to this facility by the end of the week." He turned to leave, then paused. And Dr. Chen. This conversation never happened. As far as the world is concerned, we're still conducting purely theoretical research. Sarah nodded, already planning the modifications they'd need to make to the process. They'd designed the phase shift technology to be elegant, refined, safe beyond any doubt. Now they needed to weaponize it, to transform human soldiers into something that defied the conventional laws of physics and warfare. She returned to the observation room, watching as the medical team helped Morrison out of his specialized suit. The captain caught her eye and grinned, still riding the high of his successful test. "When can I go again, Dr. Chen?" "Soon," she promised, thinking of the alien ships crossing the vast distances between stars, their intentions unknown but their coordinated approach suggesting nothing good. Very soon. The next few months passed in a blur of activity. The facility expanded underground, new labs and training areas sprouting like mushrooms in the darkness. More soldiers arrived daily, each carefully selected for both physical and psychological resilience. Sarah worked endless hours refining the process, making it faster, more efficient, but never compromising on safety. They lost only one subject, Lieutenant Jessica Hayes, when her phase shift destabilized during an advanced training exercise. The lieutenant's atoms scattered across 11 dimensions, according to their instruments. Sarah added failsafes, improved the quantum field generators, and pushed forward. They couldn't afford to stop, not with the clock ticking down to first contact. 4 months into the crash program, Sarah stood in the new command center, watching dozens of phase-shifted soldiers moving through obstacle courses that would have been impossible for normal humans. They walked through walls, passed through solid rock, emerged from the ground like ghosts made of shimmering light. Beautiful, isn't it? Sarah turned to find Morrison beside her. He'd been promoted to major, now in charge of training the new recruits. The phase shifting had changed him subtly, changed all of them. They moved differently, spoke differently, as if they'd gained perspectives no ordinary human could comprehend. "Beautiful and terrifying," she admitted. "The aliens won't know what hit them." Morrison's confidence wasn't bravado. It was the calm certainty of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of. "If they're hostile," Sarah reminded him, "we still don't know." The alarm klaxon cut her off. Red lights flashed throughout the facility. "This is not a drill," announced a computerized voice. "Unknown objects have entered lunar orbit. Repeat, unknown objects have entered lunar orbit." Sarah's blood ran cold. "They're early." Morrison was already moving. "Time to see if all your hard work pays off, Doc." Sarah watched him go, knowing that humanity's fate might rest on what she'd created in this underground lab. She'd wanted to advance human knowledge, to push the boundaries of physics. Instead, she'd created warriors who could walk through walls, strike without warning, and possibly save Earth from alien invasion. She thought of Hayes, lost somewhere in the quantum foam between dimensions, and prayed it would be worth the cost. On the main screen, astronomical data streamed in as more alien ships appeared around the moon. First contact was about to begin, and humanity's response would change the galaxy forever. First contact. First blood. The United Nations Emergency Council chamber hummed with tension as the holographic display showed the alien delegation approaching Earth. 7 distinct ship designs, 7 species, all coordinating their descent through the atmosphere with unsettling precision. Ambassador Marcus Reed adjusted his tie, acutely aware that he represented humanity in its first official contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Beside him, Major James Morrison stood motionless in his formal uniform, looking entirely normal, no hint of the quantum phase technology that made him and his soldiers something more than human. "Remember," Reed whispered, "they don't know about the Phantom program. Let's hope we never have to show them." Morrison's slight nod was his only response. Through his quantum-enhanced senses, he perceived the world differently now. He could see the subtle energy patterns in the air, the ghostly traces of probability waves that ordinary humans never noticed. and something about the approaching aliens set every enhanced instinct on alert. The massive doors swung open. The alien delegation entered with a choreographed grace that seemed more threatening than diplomatic. Leading them was a towering figure with iridescent scales and multifaceted eyes, Ambassador Corell of the Varian Concordat, according to their preliminary communications. "Greetings, children of Earth." Corell's translator produced perfect English with an artificial smoothness. "We come representing the Galactic Coalition of Advanced Species." Reed stepped forward, diplomatic smile firmly in place. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Corell. We're honored to." "Spare us your primitive courtesies," interrupted a shorter, bulbous creature near the back. Its translator crackled with barely contained disdain. "We are not here for meaningless exchanges." Morrison tensed imperceptibly. Through his quantum senses, he detected energy buildups in what the aliens had claimed were ceremonial staffs and ornaments. They were being surrounded by concealed weapons. Reed maintained his composure. "Then perhaps you could explain why you are here." Corell's massive head tilted slightly. "To save you from yourselves, of course. Your species has been observed for some time. Your violence, your rapid technological advancement, your expansion into space, all signs of a potentially destabilizing force in the galaxy." "We've barely reached our own moon," Reed protested. "And already you develop technologies that should be beyond you." Corell's multifaceted eyes fixed on Morrison. "Your quantum experiments have not gone unnoticed." Morrison fought to keep his expression neutral. "How much did they know?" "The Coalition has decided," Corell continued, "that humanity requires guidance. Direct supervision. For your own good and the good of all spacefaring species, Earth will be placed under Coalition protection." Reed's diplomatic smile vanished. "You mean occupation. Call it what you wish. Your cooperation is preferred but not required." The bulbous alien in the back moved suddenly, raising what was definitely a weapon. Morrison reacted instantly, his years of training taking over. He phase-shifted just as the energy blast passed through where he had been standing. The aliens recoiled in shock as Morrison reappeared behind their group, solid once more. The hidden weapons and their ornaments were now in his hands, phase-shifted out of their very grasp. "Impossible." Corell's translator couldn't hide the fear in his voice. "The quantum barrier cannot be breached by organic matter." Morrison's smile was cold. "You should have done better research." The chamber erupted in chaos. More alien weapons appeared, but Morrison moved like a ghost through their attacks, disarming them with terrifying efficiency. Reed dove for cover as energy blasts scorched the walls, unable to touch the phase-shifting soldier. Throughout the building, pre-positioned phantom troops emerged from walls and floors, neutralizing the alien security details that had been stationed throughout the UN complex. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing against enemies that could ignore physical barriers and conventional physics. In orbit, humanity's first and only quantum-enabled warship, the UES Spectre, dephased inside the alien fleet's formation. Its weapons might have been primitive by Coalition standards, but they worked just fine when fired from point-blank range through supposedly impenetrable shields. Corell found himself pressed against a wall, Morrison's very solid hand at his throat. "Your species, you're not ready for this power," the ambassador gasped. "No," Morrison agreed. "We're beyond ready. You just didn't bother to check before trying to conquer us." Reed emerged from his cover, brushing dust from his suit. "I believe, Ambassador, that we should restart these negotiations, with a better understanding of each other's capabilities." The remaining aliens lowered their weapons, finally comprehending their situation. Their perfect plan, their coordinated invasion disguised as diplomatic intervention, had fallen apart in minutes. "The Coalition will not stand for this," Corell warned, but his translator conveyed uncertainty. "The Coalition just tried to conquer Earth through false diplomacy," Reed countered. "I doubt the other spacefaring races will look kindly on that, especially once they learn how quickly it failed." Morrison released Corell, stepping back but remaining ready. Through his quantum senses, he could tell the fight had gone out of the aliens. They had expected to find a primitive species barely reaching for the stars. Instead, they'd found ghosts who could walk through walls and ships that could appear inside their formations. "Return to your fleet," Reed commanded. "Tell your coalition that Earth is not defenseless, nor are we interested in their protection. We will enter the galactic community as equals, or we will not enter it at all." As the shaken alien delegation was escorted out, Morrison received updates through his quantum-enhanced neural link. Similar scenes had played out at every coalition landing site across the globe. The attempted conquest of Earth had been thwarted in less than an hour. "They'll be back," Morrison said quietly, "with better plans, different weapons." Reed nodded. "But they'll be afraid now. And fear makes diplomacy much easier." He straightened his tie again. "Get me a secure line to the Security Council. We need to prepare for what comes next." In orbit, the coalition ships retreated, their perfect formation now ragged and uncertain. The UES Spectre followed at a discreet distance, a silent reminder of humanity's new capabilities. The first battle for Earth was over. The real war was about to begin. Krell stood on his flagship's bridge, watching Earth recede in the view screen. His subordinates waited nervously for orders, their confidence shattered by the demonstration of human power. "Send word to the coalition," he finally said. "Tell them." He paused, mandibles clicking in agitation. "Tell them we face something new, something that changes everything." As his ship accelerated toward deep space, Corell couldn't shake the image of human soldiers walking through solid matter, ignoring the laws of physics that had defined warfare for millennia. The galaxy was about to change, and his people had made a terrible first impression on the species that would force that change. Behind him, Earth hung in space, no longer looking like an easy target for conquest. Now it looked like something far more dangerous, the homeworld of a species that had learned to break the rules everyone else thought were unbreakable. The real question was, what other rules would humanity break next? The Ghost Brigade. Commander David Torres stood at the observation dome of Mars Base Alpha, watching the dust storms rage across the red planet's surface. Through his quantum-enhanced perception, he could see the coalition forces attempting to hide their approach through the storm. Over 2,000 troops and heavy weapons platforms creeping toward the base. "They still think we can't see them," Lieutenant Sarah Hayes remarked beside him. No relation to the lost lieutenant from the early tests, but the name always made Torres pause. "Let them think that." Torres turned to face the assembled Ghost Brigade, 50 of humanity's most elite quantum-enhanced soldiers. They shimmered slightly in his enhanced vision, their bodies existing partially in and out of normal spacetime, even at rest. "Status check. Phase generators at 100%, Hayes reported. "All squad leaders report ready. Base personnel have been evacuated to the secondary facility." The coalition had learned from their first defeat on Earth. Instead of trying to take everything at once, they were starting with Mars, humanity's first and most vulnerable colony. Their ships had quantum dampening fields now, technology hastily developed to try to counter humanity's phase-shifting abilities. "They're in for a surprise," Torres said, more to himself than his troops. The coalition didn't know that human scientists had already adapted, pushing the phase technology far beyond its original limits. His neural link buzzed with an incoming transmission from Earth Command. Dr. Chen's hologram appeared before him, her expression grave. "Commander, deep space sensors detect 3 more coalition fleets entering the system. Whatever you're going to do on Mars, it needs to happen fast. We can't let them establish a foothold." Torres nodded. "Understood. Ghost Brigade is ready." He turned to his troops. "You all know the mission. The coalition thinks they can take Mars while their dampening fields keep us from phasing through their defenses." A predatory smile crossed his face. Time to show them how wrong they are. The soldiers of Ghost Brigade had been chosen not just for their physical capabilities, but for their ability to think in quantum terms. They understood, on an instinctive level, That reality was more fluid than most beings imagined. Phase shift in 3. Torres commanded. Remember your training. Don't try to exist in too many probability states at once. Stay focused on your targets. The coalition forces were nearly in position, their heavy weapons charging up to bombard the base. They never saw Ghost Brigade coming. Torres gave the signal, and 50 human soldiers shifted not just out of phase with normal matter, but into a state of quantum superposition. Each soldier existed in multiple potential locations simultaneously, a trick that had taken months to perfect, and that the coalition's dampening fields couldn't begin to counter. The alien forces' first warning was when Ghost Brigade solidified in dozens of locations at once, appearing inside their formations, within their tanks, among their command groups. The coalition's new defensive screens meant nothing against soldiers who could choose which quantum probability to collapse into. Torres materialized inside the alien command center, his quantum blade, another innovation from Dr. Chen's team, igniting as he shifted back into normal space. The alien commander, a massive centipede-like creature, barely had time to register his presence before the battle was decided. "Your dampening fields don't work," Torres informed the dying alien, his words translated by his suit's systems. "They never did. We just let you think they would." Across the Martian battlefield, Ghost Brigade wreaked havoc. Soldiers appeared and disappeared at will, existing in multiple states until the moment they chose to strike. Coalition forces found themselves fighting enemies they couldn't predict or contain, their advanced weapons useless against foes who could choose which version of reality to inhabit. Hayes led her squad through the coalition's heavy armor division, her soldiers shifting between probability states to place quantum charges in precisely the right locations. When they detonated, the explosions existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously, bypassing shields and armor as if they weren't there. "Command center secured," Torres reported through the neural link. "Coalition forces in disarray. Beginning Phase 3. The true purpose of the battle wasn't just to defend Mars, but to capture coalition technology and intelligence. As Ghost Brigade systematically took control of the invasion force, teams of quantum-enhanced scientists moved in to secure alien computers and weapons. "Sir," Hayes called out, "you need to see this." Torres' phase shifted to her location, finding her team examining a coalition command terminal. The alien text scrolled across the screen, being rapidly translated by their systems. "It's a complete battle plan," Hayes explained. "Not just for Mars, for the entire Sol system. They were never going to stop with one colony." Torres studied the plans, his enhanced mind processing the implications. The coalition had prepared for a long, system-wide campaign. They'd assumed their technological advantage would eventually overcome humanity's phase-shifting capabilities. "Send everything to Earth Command," he ordered, "and prepare the prisoners for transport. Dr. Chen will want to question them about these dampening fields." The battle for Mars had lasted less than an hour. Coalition forces lay defeated, their weapons and technology captured, their strategic plans exposed. But Torres felt no satisfaction as he watched his troops securing the battlefield. "They'll adapt again," he said to Hayes. "Come up with new countermeasures." "And we'll adapt faster," she replied with confidence. "That's what humans do." Torres wasn't so sure. The phase technology had given humanity an edge, but the coalition controlled thousands of worlds. They would keep coming, keep trying new tactics, new technologies. His neural link activated again, displaying urgent data from Earth's deep space sensors. The 3 coalition fleets Dr. Chen had warned about were accelerating, carrying reinforcements that would arrive within days. "Ghost Brigade," Torres broadcast to all his troops. "Good work today. But our real test is still coming. Get some rest, check your gear, and be ready." This was just the beginning. As the Martian dust storm began to clear, Torres looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, the coalition was already planning their next move. But they still didn't understand what they were really fighting. Not an army with a new weapon, but a species that had learned to bend reality itself. The battle for Mars was over. The war for humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. In orbit, automated systems recorded the battle for analysis on Earth. The footage would be studied by military strategists and scientists, each trying to push the boundaries of what was possible with the phase technology. But Torres knew the real advances wouldn't come from laboratories or tactical simulations. They would come from soldiers like his Ghost Brigade, men and women who had learned to think beyond the normal limits of space and time. The Coalition thought they were fighting a war of technology. They hadn't realized yet that they were fighting a war of imagination, and that was a battle humanity had been winning since they first looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. The enemy within. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the quantum scan results, her hands trembling slightly. The data couldn't be right. She ran the analysis again, hoping for a different outcome, but the patterns were unmistakable. "How long?" General Harrison asked, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Based on the quantum resonance patterns, at least 6 months." Sarah pulled up more detailed scans on her holographic display. "The cellular degradation is subtle. Without the phase-sensitive scanners, we never would have detected it." The body on the examination table looked human. Perfect, in fact. Too perfect. It had taken the death of United Nations Security Council member Bernard Klein in a suspicious accident to discover the truth. Some of Earth's highest-ranking officials had been replaced by coalition bioconstructs. "They were here before we even detected their ships," Sarah continued. "Sleeper agents, gathering intelligence, influencing policy." She looked up at Harrison. The Coalition's first attack wasn't their real first move. Harrison's neural link pulsed, and Commander Torres's hologram materialized in the lab. The Ghost Brigade leader looked battle-worn after 3 weeks of continuous operations defending Mars. "How bad is it?" Torres asked without preamble. "We've confirmed 3 infiltrators in the Security Council alone," Harrison replied. "God knows how many more are out there. And we can't just start quantum scanning everyone in positions of power without tipping our hand." Torres's expression hardened. "Ghost Brigade is needed on Mars. The Coalition fleet can wait," Harrison cut him off. "If we don't root out these infiltrators, it won't matter what happens on Mars. We need your team's unique capabilities here. Now." Sarah watched the exchange, her mind racing through possibilities. The phase technology that had given humanity its edge in conventional battle might be their only hope of exposing the infiltrators without alerting them. "Commander," she interjected, "I have an idea. But you're not going to like it." 12 hours later, Major James Morrison stood in the UN building's basement, preparing to do something unprecedented with his phase-shifting abilities. Dr. Chen's voice came through his neural link, walking him through the procedure. "The bioconstructs exist slightly out of phase with normal matter. It's how they maintain their perfect human appearance. If you can extend your quantum perception through the building structure, I'll be able to spot them by their quantum signature," Morrison finished. "But you said this level of phase shifting could be dangerous. Your consciousness will be spread across multiple quantum states throughout the building. Too long in that condition could destabilize your neural patterns." Morrison smiled grimly. "Then I'll have to work fast." He initiated the phase shift, pushing his consciousness beyond anything they'd attempted before. His awareness expanded through the building's structure, perceiving thousands of human quantum signatures simultaneously. And there, scattered throughout the offices above, were patterns that didn't quite match. Signatures that resonated at frequencies just slightly wrong for human tissue. "I count 15 infiltrators," he subvocalized through the neural link. "Sending locations now." Across the city, similar operations were being conducted at every major government and military installation. Ghost Brigade soldiers pushed their abilities to the limit, becoming quantum detection systems capable of exposing the hidden enemy. In her lab, Sarah monitored Morrison's vital signs with growing concern. "Major, your neural patterns are starting to destabilize. You need to pull back." "Wait," Morrison's voice was strained. "There's something else, A quantum signature I've never seen before. Lower levels, East Wing. Sarah cross-referenced the location. That's supposed to be archived files. Nothing but old paper records. It's some kind of transmission hub. The infiltrators. They're receiving instructions. Morrison's vital signs spiked dangerously. Sarah was about to force terminate his phase shift when alarms blared throughout the building. Multiple quantum events detected. An automated system announced. Unknown energy signatures manifesting in all infiltrated locations. The infiltrators had realized they were discovered. Ghost Brigade teams moved with practiced precision, phase shifting into offices and secure rooms to neutralize the exposed agents. But the bioconstructs had one last surprise. Their bodies began to quantum tunnel, attempting to transmit their consciousness and data back to their coalition masters. Morrison, still phase-shifted throughout the building's structure, made a decision that would reshape the war. Instead of pulling back, he pushed deeper into the quantum field, extending his consciousness to intercept the transmissions. "Major, stop!" Sarah shouted. "The neural load will kill you." But Morrison was already moving through quantum space, chasing the fleeing infiltrator signals. In his expanded state, he could see the network they'd built. Quantum-entangled pathways leading off-world, carrying secrets and intelligence to the coalition. With the last of his strength, he collapsed the quantum tunnels, trapping the transmissions in a state of destructive interference. The infiltrators' consciousness shattered, their data lost to quantum uncertainty. When Ghost Brigade soldiers finally reached the archive room, they found a coalition quantum relay device hidden behind the old files, and slumped against it was Morrison, blood trickling from his nose, his neural patterns chaotic, but somehow still intact. "Did we get them all?" he asked weakly as medics rushed to stabilize him. "Thanks to you," Sarah confirmed through his neural link. "But the coalition will know we've exposed their network now. Whatever they were planning, it's going to happen soon." In orbit, coalition ships began changing formation, moving into attack positions. The quantum infiltration had been their ace in the hole, gathering intelligence and influencing Earth's leadership. With that advantage gone, they had nothing left to lose. Harrison watched the tactical displays with grim determination. How many Ghost Brigade soldiers are still combat ready? 60%, Flores reported. The quantum scanning operations took more out of them than we expected. Get them ready anyway. The coalition's coming, and this time they're not going to bother with subtlety. Sarah looked at Morrison's medical readings, marveling at his survival. The quantum phase technology had evolved far beyond her original designs, driven by human willpower and desperation. But she feared they had only seen the beginning of its true potential and its true cost. The war for Earth was about to enter its final phase, and humanity would need every quantum-shifted soldier, every impossible tactic, every bit of courage they could muster. Because the coalition wasn't just fighting for conquest anymore. They were fighting to eliminate a species that had proven too dangerous, too adaptable, too willing to break the fundamental laws of reality itself. The enemy within had been exposed, but the enemy above was about to show humanity just how far they would go to end the quantum ghost threat once and for all. Paradigm shift. The coalition's entire fleet darkened Earth's skies, 10,000 ships strong. Their quantum dampening fields created a web of distorted space-time that threatened to cut humanity off from the very technology that had given them their edge. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Sarah Chen made final adjustments to what she called the Quantum Liberation Protocol. Major Morrison lay on the testing chamber's bed, his neural patterns still unstable from his encounter with the infiltrator's network. "This could kill you," she warned him. The human mind wasn't meant to exist in this many quantum states simultaneously. Morrison managed a weak smile. "The human mind wasn't meant to do a lot of things we've done lately, Doc." Commander Torres and Lieutenant Hayes watched from the observation room as Sarah initiated the procedure. Morrison's form began to blur, not shifting into a single quantum state, but somehow occupying hundreds simultaneously. Ghost Brigade, Torres spoke into the neural link, addressing all his surviving soldiers. What you're about to see is either humanity's last stand or the beginning of something entirely new. Either way, it's been an honor. Above, the Coalition fleet began their attack. Energy weapons powerful enough to crack continents rained down on Earth's quantum shields, technology reverse-engineered from captured Coalition ships. But the shields wouldn't hold for long. Signal from Coalition Command, Hayes reported. They're offering terms. The holographic image of Ambassador Corell appeared in the command center, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the battle above. Your resistance has been impressive, the alien diplomat admitted. But it ends now. Surrender, and some of your species may be preserved in protected enclaves. Continue fighting, and we will have no choice but to sterilize your entire system. General Harrison stepped forward. You still don't understand what you're fighting, do you? We're not just using quantum technology. We've become something new. In the testing chamber, Morrison's consciousness expanded beyond normal spacetime. Through his enhanced perception, he could see the quantum structure of reality itself, and the weaknesses in the Coalition's supposedly impenetrable dampening field. Now, Sarah whispered. Morrison reached out with his mind, not shifting through space, but through probability itself. His consciousness touched those of every Ghost Brigade soldier, linking them in a quantum network that transcended normal physics. Through their neural links, Ghost Brigade experienced Morrison's expanded awareness. They saw what he saw, understood what he understood. Reality wasn't fixed, it was a sea of possibilities, and they were no longer bound by any single one. Ghost Brigade, Torres commanded, execute Liberation Protocol. Around the world, phase-shifted soldiers didn't just move through matter, they moved through probability. Each warrior existed in multiple quantum states, appearing in dozens of locations simultaneously, their very existence a contradiction of conventional physics. The Coalition fleet's dampening field shattered as hundreds of quantum-shifted humans materialized throughout their ships, each soldier existing in multiple states of reality at once. The aliens found themselves fighting enemies who could be everywhere and nowhere, who could choose which version of events became real. Sarah watched the battle through satellite feeds, her hands clenched tight. She had created the phase technology to expand human knowledge. Now it had expanded human consciousness itself, transforming her soldiers into beings that existed partly outside normal reality. Coalition ships are falling back, Hayes reported, her voice tense with excitement. Their dampening fields are useless against the new quantum states. But victory came with a price. On her monitors, Sarah watched the neural patterns of her phase-shifted soldiers becoming increasingly chaotic. The human mind could only exist in so many realities before it began to break down. Major, she called out to Morrison, you need to pull them back. The quantum expansion is killing them. Morrison, still lying in the testing chamber, but his consciousness spread across the battle, made a different choice. Instead of retreating, he pushed deeper into the quantum field, drawing his soldiers with him. Through their shared quantum state, Ghost Brigade became something that had never existed before, a collective consciousness operating outside normal spacetime, able to perceive and influence reality on a fundamental level. The Coalition fleet found themselves facing not individual soldiers, but a quantum gestalt that could predict and counter their every move. Ships vanished, reappearing in impossible locations. Weapons fired at empty space, hitting targets that hadn't been there until probability collapsed in exactly the right way. Dear God, Harrison whispered, watching the tactical displays. They're not just fighting anymore. They're rewriting the rules of space-time itself. Corell's hologram flickered as his flagship retreated from Earth orbit. Stop this, the ambassador demanded. You don't understand what you're becoming. No, Torres replied calmly. You don't understand what we already were. Humanity doesn't just adapt to new rules. We changed the game entirely. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the Coalition fleet had retreated to the edges of the solar system, their invincible armada humbled by enemies they couldn't even properly perceive. In the testing chamber, Morrison finally collapsed back into normal space-time, along with the rest of Ghost Brigade. Many would need months to recover from the neural strain. Some would never be quite the same, their consciousness forever altered by existing in multiple realities at once. Sarah ran to Morrison's side, checking his vital signs. That was incredibly stupid and impossibly brave. He managed a weak laugh. Sounds like humanity in general, doesn't it? One by one, Ghost Brigade soldiers reported in, their voices tired but triumphant. They had pushed the boundaries not just of technology, but of human consciousness itself. There would be no going back. 3 days later, Corell returned to Earth, not as a conqueror but as a supplicant. The Coalition had seen enough. Humanity would be recognized not just as equals but as a species to be treated with extreme caution, a race that had learned to manipulate reality itself. You understand, Corell told the UN Assembly, that this changes everything. The galaxy will never be the same. No, Sarah agreed, standing with Morrison and Torres at the back of the chamber. But change is what humans do best. The phase technology would transform humanity further in the years to come. Ghost Brigade's quantum consciousness experiments would open new frontiers of human potential. Earth would take its place among the stars not as another spacefaring race, but as something entirely new. What do you think we really became out there? Morrison asked Sarah as they watched Earth's first official treaty with the Coalition being signed. She thought about it, remembering the equations and theories that had started it all. Something wonderful and terrible, she finally answered. Something that proved the universe is stranger and more magnificent than anyone imagined. And what happens next? Sarah looked up at the stars, visible through the assembly hall's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, reality itself waited to be reshaped by human imagination and determination. Next, she smiled. Next, we keep changing the rules until we find out just how far humanity can really go. Above them, the stars seemed to shimmer, as if reality itself acknowledged that nothing would ever be quite the same again.